I used to be private security for a certain South African. He was a big Kwaito musician. Brother Nashi, let me tell you something. This man that I was working for, I ended up seeing him with his brother-in-law, and he was behind his brother-in-law. That was the most shocking thing that I ever witnessed. How are you, Brother Nashi? Please hide my real identity and call me Martin. Please change a few minor details so nobody can figure out who I will be referring to. Before I was doing private security, I worked as a personal bodyguard for one of South Africa's most biggest Kwaito musician. Brother, this man that I was working for, he was a good man, but I never expected to see him in that kind of a situation. I was shocked. And even though I had seen things that were shocking before, even the time when I was in the army, when we went to fight in DRC, I saw other people eating other people during the war when we were stranded, doing cannibalism. It shocked me, but what I saw on that day, it was truly shocking. So this man, he was the one that brought me into the entertainment industry, and it was really nice. This man, he had money, he was driving big cars, and he was cheating on the wife, and I will pretend as if a girlfriend of his was my girlfriend, and I would even enter into bed with that woman if it happened that my boss, that South African Kwaito musician, was about to get caught, so that the wife will never suspect that the husband was cheating. But I did not know about his other secret life. So this man, he did things that will make you thank God for your simple, humble life, no matter how poor you are. So my boss at that time, he was someone that was of a superstar, and everyone, if I will just mention his name, everyone will just drop their mouth like, this man, he had good soundtracks, and he was very famous. He was married to a woman who also had a nice medium personality job, and they were like a real good couple. One night we were staying at this other nice hotel. We were in Cape Town. So this guy, he had been drinking heavy after a private gig. We were hired there in Cape Town by a wealthy family from Western Africa. So we went there to perform. He was the one that was performing though. Later that night, his wife's brother, his own brother-in-law, who acted as part of his management team, came to the room. I was standing security detail outside the door in the hallway. Around midnight, I then started to hear strange noises that were coming from the bedroom. So I feared that maybe there was an armed robbery that was taking place. There were gangsters that had entered into the hotel. Since I thought that it was an emergency, I then used my master key card and I opened the door. I did so quietly and I stepped in there, getting ready to fight whoever who had entered into that room and to do an inspection. What I saw in that bedroom, it really shocked me. I caught my boss, the Kwaito musician, and his brother-in-law. They were making love on the edge of the bed. I froze. I was shocked. He looked at me and he saw me there. He panicked and he said, "Close the door, close the door." The brother-in-law rushed into the bathroom. Before I could even step back, I had closed the door, and then he pulled me outside and he said to me, "I want you to take this money." And he did not have like cash. He said that he was going to transfer the cash into my account. So he did not fire me. Instead, he made calls to his legal team right there. Starting from 2:30, by 6 a.m., there was a lawyer that had arrived at the hotel. he arrived and they made me to sign what they call an NDA paper. To those that do not know, it is a non-disclosure agreement, and I was paid some money that I can't disclose of, and he forced me to sign a strict NDA, threatening me that if I will ever say anything that concerned him, or if I will ever leak this to his wife, to the media or the public, then he was going to make sure that my life will be a living hell. I took the money, signed the papers, and I resigned from his security detail the very next week. That incident, it really shocked me. Whenever I would see him, sometimes I would even laugh when I would think about the position that I caught him in with his brother-in-law, thinking about the wife, if she was ever going to find out that this was what her brother and her husband were doing behind her back. After I left working for that man, I kept a low profile for a while, but in private security, it is like word of mouth. If you are a good person, after you would have lost your job, eventually you can be recruited by other people that want private protection, or by other VIP security companies. I was then recruited through an agent. My new boss, I'll call him Patrick. He was originally from Malawi, but he had been operating businesses in Zimbabwe as well as South Africa for many years. This man, he was having a lot of money. When I say that he had money, I don't mean like these young men that buy a few bottles of Hennessy and then they think that maybe they have so much money. He even owned buildings in Harare, in downtown Harare. He owned residential apartment blocks in Joburg. He had taxis in Joburg as well, and people did not even know that they were owned by a Malawian man in Zim. He had cross-border buses as well as trucks that would go to Malawi. He had political connections, and he always moved around with his security detail. He had so much money. This man, what was really surprising about him was that he was not married. He did not have any children at all. It seemed as if he was just a normal rich man doing rich people stuff. But the things that he will make you do once he was inside of his hotel room, they will make you to panic. Yes, I had seen things that had shocked me. When that Kwaito artist, I had seen him sleeping with his brother-in-law, but this hit me completely different. The first strange thing that I noticed about this man that I was now working for, he had these rituals that he did whenever he was about to eat. We were staying at a luxury hotel. We were in Joburg. So the room service brought up a nice dinner for him, steak and wine dinner, and I carried the tray inside the suite where he was. Then this man, he was supposed to just jump out of bed and he was supposed to go and eat. There was a nice dining table in the middle of the room. Everything looked normal, but then my boss, he looked at me and he said, "Martin, put it there." I looked at where he was pointing. He was pointing on the floor, right near the corner of the room. I thought that maybe he wanted me to set the tray down temporarily whilst he was clearing the table. So I set the wooden tray on the floor and he shook his head. He was like, "No, I mean the food." I hesitated and I asked him what he meant by that. He then said, "Take the food from the plate, and after you would have taken the food from the plate, I want you to put it on the floor." I thought that maybe I was not hearing something that was right. I asked him twice and I said, "Are you trying to say that I am supposed to put the food that you are going to eat directly on the floor, boss?" And he said, "Yes, I want you to put the food on the floor. I did not argue. So this was a man that was paying for my salary. I was supposed to cooperate and to do what he wanted me to do. So I cooperated, and then I put the food on the floor. After that, I saw my boss. He then got off from the bed and he knelt down in that corner where I had put the food for him on the floor, and he started eating just like a dog, like a wild animal. I stood there. I did not even know what to think. This man was really rich, and I was thinking to myself, what is wrong with these rich people? First it was that guy. Now this man, he is eating food straight from the floor. Is this what happens when people get too much money? I did not ask a single question. I just told myself that I was his bodyguard. I was not his doctor, neither was I a pastor. If the boss says stand by the door, you stand there. If he say we move at 4 in the morning, you are supposed to be ready by 2 a.m. I just thought that maybe he was high on drugs. Even the wine, he told me to pour the wine on the floor, and he was licking the wine directly straight from the floor. About a week later, we went to this other hotel. He made me to do the same thing. Then the water as well, it even became worse. He would tell me to pour water on the floor. He stopped drinking water from the water glass or from any bottle. He would only drink water. Even if he was thirsty, he would only drink that water straight from the floor. I could not ask any question. I just did what he had told me to do. As someone who grew up in the villages, seeing my boss performing all of these rituals, I started to ask myself, is this man into Satanism? What is really happening? The house that he owned in Zim, it was very big, yet he had no family. He would stay there alone. When I was with him at night, I would feel afraid. Of course, I'll just pretend as if I was brave. You could call me, and then he would say, can you do a patrol? Not patrolling outside of the yard or in the yard. He would say, I want you to go into each and every room to check if everything is okay, because he used to keep an undisclosed amount of money in cash in some bags at that mansion, which was in Borotel. And the rule at that house was that we were not supposed to turn on the lights at night. Only in his bedroom. We would stay in the dark. You would be patrolling with a flashlight in the dark. It was like you are in the scene of a horror movie. Because of all of these businesses that he had, we were always on the private jet, traveling between Joburg, traveling between Durban, Cape Town, and Harare. We would go to Malawi and Dubai and America. So then there was another thing that I used to do. It is really normal. My job description was to make sure that I find women for him on social media and pass those women to him. My boss, he loved women, not just any kind of a woman. He loved women, those ones that you see them on social media. They are looking for men, and you can just see by the way that they dance, the way that they take their pictures. They might be married, but if there is a message that she has received and then she checks the profile and see that this man, he seems to have money, she will quickly respond to you. So my duty was to make sure that I pick up these women that I would have hooked up with, and I would tell them that I have a boss of mine who is very interested in you. Do you want some quick cash? And we would go to the hotel. I will go with that lady to the hotel, and then they would make love throughout the night. And this way, like real young women, some as young as 18. I don't know why these women will chase after older blessers like that who are heavily involved in rituals. But again, it was none of my business. All that I had to do was to look for the women that my boss will spend some time with. The one that I really remember because of what she did, I don't know if she was drunk, if she was high on drugs, but she created drama. We were in Centon at that time. So I went and I picked up this girl that I had spoken with on Instagram. After I had sent her money multiple times and she failed to show up, she told me that she was stranded at this other club where she had gone with a blesser. So I went there because my boss told me that he was so much into that woman, he wanted to taste him. I went and I picked her up and then I brought him to the room where my boss was. And I just stepped outside and I was by the corridor waiting for my boss to give me any instruction. I can say 45 minutes passed, everything was quiet. That was when I had someone screaming inside of the room where my boss and that slave queen were sleeping. Suddenly, the door was open. That South African girl, she was even half naked and she was running for her life. She was holding her handbag as well as her heels, and she was not wearing any shoes. I asked him, what happened? She was like really scared. Even the way that she was breathing, you could tell that there was something that was wrong. So I thought that maybe my boss had beaten her up, but no, she said he did not beat her up, but there was a snake. She kept on saying, there is a snake inside, there is a snake, there is a giant snake inside of that room. So I immediately went in there thinking that maybe there was a snake, and I looked for everywhere. I did not see a snake at all. My boss, he was in the bathroom. He came out as if there was nothing that was wrong, and he said, Aish, this prostitute is making a lot of noise. I want to sleep. And they said, boss, she is saying that there is a snake. And he asked me where this woman was. And I told him that I had left her outside and I think that she was waiting for an Uber. And my boss said, go and fetch her right now. I rushed outside. I went and I fetched that South African woman, and I was literally holding him against her will. When we were passing through the reception, I whispered into her ears and I was like, I have a gun right now. If you act as if I am forcing you, you are going to die right now. And if I don't kill you, I am going to find your family. I am going to kill them one by one. Indeed, I had a gun. So she was also holding me as if we were okay, even gave me a kiss. And then we walked past through the reception. They just wondered what was going on. So we got into the room, and when we got into the room, I left them with the boss. They were talking nice to each other. I returned back to the reception, and I just wanted those people at the reception not to call the police. I explained the situation, but it was a lie. I told the man and the woman that were at the reception, and I said, I am sorry for the commotion, but the problem is that this woman, she was shocked when she saw my boss's cucumber. So she was running away, and my boss was going to pay them very good money, meaning that we were going to bribe the two people that were at the reception. They laughed really hard. They said, these young women, they love things. Now she has met a man with a very big cucumber. After she has eaten her money, she must sleep with him so that he can also enjoy, like the way that she was enjoying when he was spending money on him. When we were in the room now, the boss then instructed me to take one of his briefcase that he carried around, and we gave this woman 100,000 in cash. My boss allowed me to take this woman back to the location where she was staying, and I drove with him for about an hour from Centon, going to the location where she stayed, like at night. and I left her there. She was happy. I'm sure wherever she is, if she hears this story, she will immediately recognize me. So, Brother Nashim, that is what I came across when I was working as a bodyguard. I don't know if this man was a ritualist or not. He later passed away. Dear listeners, right there was a message that was sent to us by one of our dear brother. Let us speak with him in the comment section. If you used to work with rich people as well, you can come to my inbox and then you can share with us your own side of the story. Strange things indeed, they do happen in this world. Let us meet again in the following episode.